French, the English, and the Dutch are going to be your major settler colonies. On your whiteboard, please tell me, what is the highest level of your social hierarchy in Spain? What is the highest social structure in Spain? Good. What is it? What is it? Jinghao. What is it? Peninsulars. There you go. On your whiteboard, please tell me, what country used Australia as a penal colony? What country used Australia as a penal colony? Good. What is it? Daniel?
England.
England. What language do they speak, Carlota? English. When in doubt, guys, think about what language they speak there today, and it's probably going to be the right answer. Can we agree? If worst case, dumb it down to that. What language they speak today? Australia, they speak English. It's got to be the English who are colonizing them. Okay? All right. What I do want you to know is that, yes, you do need to know that England made Australia a penal colony. Yes, you do need to know Encomenderos are Spanish settlers. If I'm telling you very specific things, do you think it's probably in your interest to write it down, maybe? Yes. So you do need to know the Encomenderos are Spanish settlers. Are there a lot of them or very few of them? Very, very few. Okay, there's not a ton of them. However, they are going to be asserting their influence. It's your settlers who are going to be your missionary workers. Okay? They're the ones who are there who's going to be spreading and preaching the Word of God. Would we say the Spanish were very effective in spreading Catholicism? Absolutely. If you look at Mexico today, it's a Catholic country. If you look at most of your South American countries, what are they? Catholic. So we would say they're pretty damn successful. All right, here we go. So your Africa is where we're starting right now. So let me tell you what you need. Well, just listen. So Africa has been doing incredibly well. In period 3, what was introduced that allowed African trade to expand significantly? Munson. Gold is going to happen. Okay, we have Mansa Musa, right? He's doing his whole pilgrimage and all that crap. What is the big invention or addition? Tristan. Camels. Yes. Can you imagine walking through the Saharan desert without a camel? No. Camels. So trade is now going to be booming because of camels, correct? We also had bananas. What is the impact of bananas? What is the impact of bananas, Jamal?
Enriched diets.
Enriched diets, which means what? Yeah, larger population, absolutely. I thought you were going to say, like, fatter people, because you were, like, kind of thinking about it for a second. We have a larger population. We have camels, so trade is booming. So Africa is doing pretty damn well right now. Can we agree? Okay, so we have the Kingdom of Ghana, which we've talked about. Kingdom of Malai is still kicking. Okay, these empires aren't ending like our European ones and all that stuff. The newest one is the Songhai, and this is one you do need to write down. So when we talk about the Songhai, it's a very big deal and it's very transformative for Africa. The Songhai is going to be started by Sunni Ali. So what religion are they? They're Muslim. Why are they Muslim? You can raise your hand and tell me why they're Muslim. Logically, it makes sense. Zach?
Because Sunni is like one of the sects of Islam.
Okay, absolutely. But what else is happening in Africa? Think about it. Payton.
There's a lot of trade to Muslim merchants.
Yes, and what's the most popular religion on Silk Road? Islam. All their traders are mostly Islamic, so it makes sense most of Africa would be Islam. We know this from Mansa Musa, correct? Yes? Okay, so he's going to have the first musket-bearing Moroccan army destroy Songhai forces, and they're going to lose a little bit of control. Morocco is where? Very northern point, and it's south of what? Just south. Spain, absolutely. There's like a 2-mile, I think, gap between Spain and Africa. Okay? So, Swahili is going to start declining. The Swahili states are going to be in decline on East Africa. Why do we care about the Swahili states? You can raise your hand. What are they known for? Think about it. Swahili states, what are they doing? Why do we know them? Guys, you do have a midterm on all of this coming up, like real quick. Gunner.
Because the Portuguese started sending boats
Okay, but why are the Swahili states famous in the first place? Why do we know about them? What do we care about them?
Their language and trade.
Okay, their language is very unique. It's closest to the Bantu. Okay, where are they trading, Daniel?
Gold.
They're trading gold. Their major exporters are gold. And they're trading in what basin? Indian Ocean Basin. Are they doing well, or were they doing well in period 3? They're not doing well anymore because who arrived, Gunner? The Portuguese start showing up, and they're going to start defeating them. Why can't they fight off the Portuguese? Guns, absolutely. The Portuguese have guns. They do not. They can't fight them out. Okay. Vasco da Gama is going to be fighting up the coast. He's going to be conquering. Eventually, the Portuguese are going to dominate Swahili ports by gunships. They have cannons on ships, and they just take over the ports. They don't have weapons, so they can't fight back. They don't have guns, at least. I mean, they're fighting, but they can't really win. Kingdom of Congo. Just listen. This is a big deal. You need to pretty much write down this whole slide if that helps. Okay, the Kingdom of Congo has relations with the Portuguese. I think at this point we can understand that every African civilization, especially along the coast, has now dealing with the Portuguese. Can we agree? It's now something they have to deal with because the Portuguese, as Vasco da Gama was going around, and as they continue to control, they're taking over areas. So King Nzinga Mebe, or Alfonso I, converts to Roman Catholicism. Who can tell me why he does that? Who? Why, Sarah? He can have better relationships with the Portuguese. This mimics what other previous African leader who converts to a different religion in order to have relations. Who is it? Starts with an S. Who is it? Gunner? Sundita. He's the one who's going to convert, right? So that was period 3. Here we are in 4, and it's happening again. Okay? It's a big deal. AP loves this crap. So he converts to Roman Catholicism, so he has something to talk to the Portuguese about. Just like Sundita, hey, we have the same religion. You should trade with us. Give us your business. We're the same religion. Same thing. Everyone in Africa knows that the Portuguese can wipe them out pretty quickly. They did it with the Swahili state, so King Nzinga is like, okay, what are we going to do? How about we turn Roman Catholic? They won't kill Catholics, right? Wrong. So, he's useful for the Portuguese. He becomes like a diehard Catholic. Super diehard Catholic, and attempts to convert everyone in his kingdom. Okay? He is, initially the Portuguese were just there for slave raiding. When we talk about slave raiding, they're not running into internal parts of Africa and capturing people. They're just grabbing people from the local port villages. Okay? Soon, they realize going out and carrying a net through the woods and being like, mine, is really hard to do. So they'd rather just buy slaves. So instead of going out in the woods and capturing her, I'm going to pay Carlota, give her a gun, and she's going to capture you, you, and you. And then I only had to give up a gun, and now I have 3 slaves with no effort. Makes a lot of sense, don't you think? So the Portuguese are going to realize that just buying slaves at the port, much more affordable. So they start selling guns and rum. Okay? So they're going to deal with all the African traders. The Congo kings, everyone is trying to tell them to stop doing it. Can we agree? Do you think King Nzinga wants them capturing people from their towns? No, absolutely not, which is why he converts to Christianity. However, the Portuguese are going to have a relationship for a couple of years. However, it's going to deteriorate. And for the first time, Europeans capture and just completely take over an African empire in 1655. Is this the last time it will happen? It is the first. You need to know that the Portuguese take over the Kingdom of Congo and rule it for themselves. Why? Because it's easier to just do whatever the hell you want than listen to some guy complain about it, correct? Absolutely. So, you need to know that the Portuguese overthrow the Kingdom of Congo and just rule it themselves. It's the first time it happens, but the entire continent will be run like this by the end of period 5. So it just starts a trend. Okay? Kingdom of Nagango. The biggest thing you need to know is they have a queen. You need to know her name. Her name's Queen Nzinga. She's going to pretend to be a male in order to barter with the European leaders. You need to know her name. You need to know she dresses like a male because it's one of the fun facts AP likes. And Nzinga creates an alliance with the Dutch, to come in and try to overthrow the Portuguese. It fails, but it's probably the most successful attack on that one. So you need to know her name. You need to know she forms an alliance with the Dutch, and that it fails, but it's a strong attempt. It's the best attempt at getting her out. And she's a female. Can we just sit there and just like... Fine. I think it's pretty cool. We've had, 3 female leaders? Yeah, we've had 3. All right, regional kingdoms. Just listen. The Great Zimbabwe. The Dutch build Cape Town in 1652. During period 5, this is going to be a much bigger deal because they're going to have the Boer War. Have we heard of the Boer War? Yeah, okay. And the British are going to also start developing. Islam is going to continue to grow. Timbuktu becomes a major Islamic center. African traditions are going to start blending in. What is it called when 2 religions start blending? Syncretism, absolutely. And we saw it where first? Where did we see syncretism happen first? With a whole new religion. What is it? It is in India. What religion is made out of the blending of 2 major Indian religions? We just had our first senator who follows this religion elected about 2 months ago, which is pretty cool. Greta? No, it's not Neo-Confucianism. Sikhism. Sikhs. The guys who wear the turbans. Those are Sikhs. We just had one elected into Congress, which is pretty cool. Anyway, so here in Africa, we start seeing the blending of it. Don't even worry about these. Christianity. Okay, so you do need to know Donna Patrice. You do need to know her name, and she's right there. All right, so Christianity in sub-Saharan Africa is going to start expanding. Of course, what is the first place in Africa that naturally picks it up because they like it? Come on, guys, you got to recall because this is on your midterms. What is it, Jamal? Kingdom of Aksum. They're Christian. It's weird. They're the only ones who do it by choice. So we have the Kingdom of Congo that becomes Christians. They do it by choice or they do it by pressure? Pressure. They're trying to get better trade. So we have Donna Patrice. She's walking around claiming she's in possession of St. Anthony, okay, a saint inside of her. Okay, so she's wandering around Africa saying, I have the saint inside me and I am doing its will. I wonder if I started doing that, people would follow me. You know what I mean? Because like every time in history, you always see like people start following these people, and I'm like, what happens if I started doing it? So anyway, the cool thing about Donna Patrice is that she starts teaching that Jesus is from Africa, and that his roots are from Africa. So if Jesus is from Africa, what color skin is he?
Black.
Black, absolutely. So all of a sudden in Africa, we start having black Jesuses. And there are churches here in the United States, there's one actually in town actually, that they worship a black Jesus. And it comes from the roots of Donna Patrice. Isn't that cool? It is very cool. It's a whole syncretism, remember? Okay? Now we all know that the pearly white Jesus you've seen in like Renaissance painting is not what Jesus looked like, right? He's from the Middle East. So what color skin does he probably have? Brown. Because pearly white is from Europe.
Like the scientists like made an image of what Jesus probably looked like.
Yeah, he was a brown dude. Yeah. So, I mean, black Jesus, some people get really offended by a black Jesus. Well, I mean, it's not pearly white either, so it's whatever you kind of want. Syncretism. All right, so Christian missionaries, they're eventually going to burn Donna Patrice. Why are they going to burn her? What is she preaching? Black Jesus, yes. People today are still offended by seeing a black Jesus. Okay, so they kill her because Pedro the Fourth to kill her just because she's preaching the wrong type of Jesus. So anyway, all right. So social change. We have new crops. Manioc is a new crop, and you need to have that. It's on your test for tomorrow. Manioc. Does anyone know what manioc is? It's like, okay, so it grows like bamboo. So it's like this super stocky tree. It's not very big. It's only like that big. If you've ever seen National Geographic and people in Africa, yeah, cutting down stuff, it's probably manioc. What it is, apparently, it's like a super, super starchy tasting kind of potato thing with lots of fiber. Like it's very fibrous, potato, starchy kind of thing. And what they do is they trim off the bark and then like boil it like potatoes, roast it like potatoes, and all that stuff. It comes from the Americas, and it's going to what to the population? Increase the population. When we get more food, we increase the population. You definitely need to know this. Okay? This is going to help what? Slave trade. Okay? So the bananas and manioc are going to be affected. So, African slavery. So I would start, African slavery has always existed. The Middle East has always been taking African slaves. Africans are capturing other Africans, bringing them to the coast, and then selling them to different people, yes? It's not white people aren't going in. Arabs aren't going into Africa. That doesn't happen until 5. Right now, everyone's just bringing people to the coast and then selling them off, okay? Now, the difference between African slavery and European slavery is that in Africa, the more people you owned, the wealthier you are. So, if you had a really nice house, didn't matter. If you had a really crappy house but 700 people you owned, that's your wealth status. So, what do people want to purchase? People. Because that shows wealth. Just like buying name brand stuff and wearing it to school, it shows wealth. They're buying people instead. Okay? So, Islamic slave trade. So, obviously, you're going to have Muslims buying it. They're buying it off the Swahili coast. Okay? Europeans demand on the west coast. Why the west coast of Africa? Makes a lot. Yeah, it's absolutely. They're going to take it to the Americas. What is their primary destination, Dylan? Where are most slaves landing? Brazil, absolutely, because of all the sugar cane and all that stuff. So, early slave trade. So the Portuguese are going to be the ones who are really pushing for the start of it. Why are the Portuguese the first ones to really push for it? Think about it. Why are the Portuguese the first one in Africa exporting slaves, Munson? They're the first ones there, absolutely, and really taking over ports. They already have the infrastructure in place, so why not make some money off the people? Okay? I think we can agree when the Portuguese start showing up and just capturing people, it's not met with grand celebration, correct? So by 1460, about 500 slaves per year, 1520, 2,000 a year. What accounts for the major difference between 1460 and 1520? What is the big seismic event that occurs between those two dates that are going to lead to a drastic increase in slaves? We got America, man. We got cash crops we can make. We got gold to mine, absolutely. So we're going to see an increase because of the Americas. Okay, so triangular trade, you're going to want to write this down. So triangular trade is going to start with Europe. Okay, Europe is selling goods to who? Hello? Africa. What goods are Europeans selling to Africa? Who? Guns and? Rum. They're also selling secondary things. So the primary things are guns and rum. The secondary things are going to be clothing and manufactured stuff. Why manufactured things? Are the Africans producing manufactured things? Is Africa industrialized today? No, technically it's not. Even still today in 2017, it's technically not industrialized today. All right, so Europe is selling guns and rum. Africa is selling what? Slaves. And who is selling these slaves? Africans selling Africans. It's important that you understand that. Okay, so Europe is traveling to Africa. Europeans are selling guns and rum, clothing and other manufactured goods in order to purchase slaves from Africa. So these Africans are going to go across, and where are they going to land? The Americas. Oh, I almost spelled Americas wrong. The Americas. This part between Africa and the Americas is called what? Middle Passage. Okay, so when the slaves are crossing the Atlantic Ocean, it's called the Middle Passage. In the Americas, they're purchasing what? They're purchasing slaves with what goods? What goods are they selling in order to get slaves? Munson. Yeah, of course. What are they?
Sugar.
They're not selling sugar. What version of sugar are they selling? Molasses. Why are they selling molasses? We talked about this yesterday. There you go. You absolutely, it's a higher density and all that stuff. And it easily makes rum. There you go. So molasses, tobacco. What are some other things? Cotton is going over. Okay, so these are all what? Raw materials, correct? And where are these raw materials going? Europe. So they're going to sell all these raw materials for what? No, they're not. They're in Europe.
Oh.
The Americans are going to Europe and selling all of these raw materials are going to Europe. And what are they going to buy? Guns and rum. Then where are they going? Africa to sell what? To buy.
Slave.
Then they go to the Americas and sell slaves for molasses, tobacco, your raw materials, and it goes back to Europe. So one slave ship could do this 3 times a year. It's a pretty good cycle, man. It's a pretty good cycle. And it's mostly going to be the Portuguese and the Dutch. Those are the 2 major countries that are going to be doing this. Okay, so that's how triangular trade works. This is your transatlantic slave routes. Okay, the primary source is going to be, of course, Brazil. They're going to be buying the largest amount. Then the Caribbean is going to have the highest density of purchasing of slaves. Why? What are they growing in the Caribbean? Sugar. And they also have a little bit of tobacco. And then the final stop, if they haven't sold all their slaves in Brazil, they haven't sold all their slaves in the Caribbean, is then the Americas. When the British start buying them in 1670s, I think, they're going to go there last. Okay? All right, so Middle Passage, of course, it's 4 to 6 weeks across. About 50% are going to be killed in the early routes, about 5% towards the end. They eventually obviously figure it out, just like a business, correct? When you open a business, you're going to have a lot of wasted money. They're going to waste a lot of money and resources on the slaves by the end. By the 1880s, when slavery ends, they've figured it out, only 5% die. Keep in mind, when we're talking about product here, we're talking about human lives. It's really important that you do understand that it's human lives. They estimate 12 million are actually going to be sold into slavery. 4 million are just going to die at sea. We estimate, we're not really sure. No one kept track of how many people were actually on the ships. They only tracked how many they bought. So we're not really sure. But 16 million people moving around is pretty extensive. Can we agree? And pretty horrifying. So, impact of slavery. It's going to have a nasty effect on Africa. Can we agree? Okay, so listen. The slave ports are going to be flourishing. You can raise your hand and tell me why slave ports are flourishing. Why, Tristan?
There's constant trade going out.
Constant trade going out. There's tons of money to be made off the slave trade, correct? So, slave ports are thriving. Everywhere else in Africa is not doing so well. Can we agree? Mostly, what gender are they taking? Male. They are taking some females. They are taking very few children. They don't want to wait that long, especially for them to grow up and all that crap. So they mostly are taking men. They are taking some females, and they're leaving children behind. Is this going to destroy the social structure of Africa? Absolutely. Okay, so the social effects. African population expands during this time. Put a big star. During African slave trade, even though 16 million people are leaving Africa, the population of Africa increases. It's a very weird fact. It will be on your AP exam. It's always there in some capacity. Even though the slave trade is in full boom in Africa, the population increases. Why does the population increase, Callie? No, and Europeans aren't staying in Africa. Only in Portugal do we have a takeover. We don't see another takeover until period 5.
And the new crop.
New crops is the big thing. Manioc is going to be a huge game changer. Obviously, bananas are going to continue to spread and all that stuff. Okay? It's a weird fact, but it's a true fact. African population is going to continue to boom. There's a distorted sex ratio, of course. 2/3 of slaves are male, 15 to 35. People left back, there's very few men, so polygamy is going to explode, okay? We're going to have women acting in traditionally male roles, okay? So the whole gender situation is going to be thrown out of whack. All right, to the boards, here we go. On your whiteboard, please tell me, what is the name of the gentleman from Congo who converts to Catholicism in order to attract kindness from the Portuguese? Come on. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What is it, Melu? Okay, what is his Christian name after he's baptized, Tristan? There we go. Because when you get baptized, you get a new name in Catholicism. Mine is Abigail. Thanks. On your whiteboard, please tell me. My Nana used to call me Abigail because that's my baptism name. So some people go by it. Like it's a big deal. Anyway, on your whiteboard, please tell me, what is the name of Spanish settlers? What is the name of Spanish settlers? Good. Who are they, Sarah? There you go. On your whiteboard, please tell me, what kingdom does the Portuguese take over once they get frustrated with the pushback? What empire do the Portuguese take over? Who is it, Walker? Kingdom of Congo. The Kingdom of Ndongo had a ruler who dressed as a man, who then colluded with the Dutch to overthrow the Portuguese and eradicate them. However, it failed. Who is it? Cade. Huh?
Queen Nzinga.
Give us our glory, man. We got 3, okay? Queen Nzinga. On your whiteboard, please tell me what is the name of the lady who walked around Africa saying Jesus was black and was born from Africa. It's going to start a whole movement that still continues to exist today. She's going to be burned at the stake, as you do. Carlota, who is it? Donna Patrice. On your whiteboard, please tell me, what major crop during period 4 is going to spar massive population growth? Good. Come on. Grishma, what is it? Manioc. On your whiteboard, when slavery is at its peak, the African population, is it up or down? When slavery is at its peak, is the population up or down? Abby, you are struggling back there. It is up. On your whiteboard, please tell me, what empire collapsed on the east coast of Africa because of Portuguese control? What East Coast African civilization is going to crash because of Portuguese control? What is it, Zach? Oh, no, just kidding. What is it, Elizabeth? Swahili states. On your whiteboard, please tell me, what type of goods are Europeans selling to Africans? What type of good are Europeans selling to Africans? Good. Jinghao, what are they? Guns and rum and what else, Elizabeth? Manufactured goods. Africans are selling slaves. Those slaves are going to be purchased with what goods from the Americas? Slaves are going to be purchased from what goods in the Americas? Good. Good. What is it, Callie? Raw materials. And those raw materials are going to make its way back to Europe. Please tell me, what is the passage from Africa to the Americas called? Where 12 million people are going to be carried essentially successfully. And I say successfully because it would be horrific. What is it, Abby? Middle Passage. All right. Perfect. Let's do it. All right. So, political effects of slave trade in Africa. All of a sudden, Africa is going to have a huge amount of what wandering around? Guns, absolutely. Keep in mind, they can't manufacture their own guns. So anytime a gun comes onto Africa, essentially it's mostly likely from slave trade, correct? Slave trade's booming, so all of a sudden we started having guns. Now, when you know you have guns and your neighboring tribe that you've been feuding with for thousands of years doesn't have guns, what are you probably more likely to do? Absolutely. You have an advantage for the first time in thousands of years, so guess what? Violence explodes in Africa. Rivalries that have always existed, right? This whole thing going back and forth, now are going to explode because all of a sudden some sides do have an advantage. More weapons, more slaves, more weapons. It goes back and forth. And there you go. So, African slaves and plantation societies. What is, of course, the largest plantation society? Brazil. Okay, the Spanish are going to have some, but they're really not plantations. They're mostly mining. Okay, so most slaves are going to land in Brazil, Mexico, some in the Caribbean. Okay, but the Spanish really aren't doing it. The major cash crops are going to be sugar, of course, to start, tobacco, rice, indigo, cotton, coffee is going to become. It's all based on race, correct? Especially here in the Americas, we're going to color code our slaves. As you can see, 50% of all slaves are going to Brazil. Why? Because they work them the hardest and they pay the top dollar for them. So they're going to go there and going to spend the most money there. So, what are the pros and cons of the different regions? Caribbean and South America, the population is going to be killed off. Slaves are going to be overworked, obviously. They're going to die of malaria, brutal working conditions, and gender imbalance. What does that mean? What aren't they buying? Gunner. They're not buying women. Why don't they care? Why aren't they buying women, Gunner? Yeah, they want people to work. They don't care about surviving. They want you to work, and you're going to work until you die, and then we'll just buy someone to replace you. Okay, so they don't care about women in any of that sort. In North America, there's less disease. It's not as hot. There's not as much malaria. And there's a normal sex ratio because Americans, the English are playing the long game. Okay? They want their slaves to have sex, to make babies, so they can continue on. Because if I have a slave, a male and female, and they make babies, I own the babies. Free. And that's how they kind of saw it. So yeah, they would buy a couple slaves, and then my kids' generation will be better for them. We can have maybe, instead of my generation only having 2 and a kid, my kids will have maybe 4, or 6 or 8 and all that stuff. And that's how your wealth grows there. Resistance to slavery. They're going to do half-hearted work. Why are they going to work half-heartedly? Because they were stolen from their homeland to work your land to make you money. Of course they're not going to work their hardest. Hello? Sabotage. They're obviously not going to try to make their owners money. They're going to run away, of course, and there's, of course, revolts. There's only one successful slave revolt in history, and it's in Santo Domingo, and it's the Haitian. It's the only one. The Haitians are the only ones to successfully overthrow. And in Haiti, what language they speak? French Creole. So what country did they expel? France. And they're the only successful ones to do it. The rest is going to be fought through. All of a sudden, we have things called Creole languages, like French Creole, which we just talked about in Haiti. If you've ever been to New Orleans, they do this thing called Creole. If you go out in like the boonies of Louisiana, I did not go there. I stayed pretty much in the French Quarter. They have this like crazy dialogue. Have you ever seen like the Swamp Hunters on like History Channel? Whatever they're saying is not a language, and it's not because it's Creole. Creole is a mix of different cultures, different languages, and we're going to see that. They're also going to be adopting Christianity. This is going to be a very big trend. It's going to be supported by the white owners, both Spanish, French, and English. They're going to support this whole move to Christianity, which we're going to see. Eventually, it's going to be ending, but we'll get to that. Perfect. Awesome. All right. Miss Bennett. Hey. I need to switch up the edits. I'm sorry. I had a student I have to work for. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'd really love to help you. I have a very good reason not to. No problem. Oops.